The audio commentary. It's a dying art form, but here at One Track Mind, I, your wonky yet affable host Ryan Luis Rodriguez, analyze film through the prism of these embryonic forms of podcasting, one audio commentary at a time. Masterpieces, crapster pieces, live action, animation, cult classics, films literally no one has ever heard of. No track is too small, and no track is too big. Join me and my guests from the entertainment world as we keep these features alive every other Tuesday. Hey, who else is going to discuss Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey one week and Citizen Kane the next? Us, that's who. Sure, you have to put up with my voice, but there's a certain give and take in this industry. That's One Track Mind, part of the Someone's Favorite Productions family, and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies, we love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
And welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw, and I am joined to close out Documentary Month, a month that he curated for us. The projection booth's one and only, Mr. Mike White.
I've been rated X by an all-white jury.
An all-white jury of parents with children who are way older than the MPAA's rating system honestly gives a shit about. Oh, man. And on this Kulturecast, we are talking about the final film of Documentary Month. I prefaced it last week by saying the most nefarious organization we may have talked about the entire month. And that's pretty much only in relation to what Mike does, what I do, which is podcasting about movies. We're going to be talking about This Film Is Not Yet Rated and the MPAA rating board.
For 35 years, a secret group has controlled the way you see movies.
There were clergy in the room. These are moral censors.
They forced great filmmakers to change their art.
I was so devastated.
I got the call and they said NC-17. That's when my blood turned to ice.
Because the studio won't release your movie.
No advertising budget. You can't run TV spots.
No one's ever found out who they are.
Who is controlling this thing and how are they controlling it?
No one knows. That's the whole point.
Until now.
We're actually hiring a private investigator to try to find out who these people are on the board.
It's time. The MPAA got a rating of its own.
The MPAA is that pinkish color building. There's absolutely no way of going in.
When an Oscar-nominated director and a private dick
they're going to all start coming out. We'll take some plates. That's the camera. It looks just like a little bit.
dig deep.
Oh, a lot of women. We need to go for this.
I'm going to put on my safety belt.
He's not even looking. I got him. Right there. Got a raider.
To expose Hollywood's dirtiest secrets.
Whoa! One woman is topless, breast exposed. So what I don't understand is who's counted the Do you ever do interviews at all?
No.
I'm already divulging a lot here. At some point, I think I have to draw a line.
For seeing my pubic hair, we get an NC-17.
Violence is fine, sex isn't.
You almost got us caught. They were going, look at that man. Is he filming us?
Discover the movie.
You are dealing with a very powerful censorship group.
Hollywood doesn't want you to see.
I'm going to say the F word. It's the fascist system.
Hi, is this the MPAA? Yes. I'd like to submit my film for a rating. It's a documentary. It's about how films are rated.
This September, censorship gets fucked.
All right, Mike, so I'm going to ask you why you picked this movie, but I feel like I already know why, but I am curious for you why you picked this film for this month.
Well, obviously it appeals to movie lovers and to folks who, kind of give a rip about movies. And also it's interesting historically as far as when the rating system came in. They don't talk too much about how the ratings have changed over the years. There have been some interesting videos out there as far as look at what a PG was in this year versus a PG in this year, and that times have changed and ratings have maybe changed or not changed with them. But the other thing is that this movie, it makes me slightly uncomfortable, which I think good documentaries do, and it gives me a lot to think about.
Why does it make you slightly uncomfortable?
Well, the whole idea of the MPAA is that it is an anonymous board of people that are judging movies. And this movie, Kirby Dick's This Film Is Not Yet Rated, actually outs those people. And that is one of the major threads running through this. And sometimes I think, oh, good for him. And other times I'm just like, wow, that seems like a real Kirby Dick move to do. But
wow, you had to do that joke, didn't you?
I had to. I mean, let's get it right out there. I don't know. So that kind of following people around and getting their license plates numbers and tracking them down and all those kind of things, that kind of makes me uncomfortable at times. But at the same time, why is this board anonymous? Do they really need to be anonymous? And who are the people that are sitting behind closed doors telling us, telling parents, telling children, this is what you can and cannot see. This is how old you should be in order to experience this film.
At your age, at my age, this rating system essentially means fuck all. It means absolutely nothing. I am 28. You are 42?
45 now, I think.
Okay. So at this point, I could give a shit about what the MPAA says. You could give a shit about the MPAA, what they said. I could have given a shit for a decade now. You longer, obviously. So the MPAA at this point, making a rating for kids is kind of moot, because obviously we're at the age now where we can go to an R-rated movie and it not being an issue. However, my issue with the MPAA is the fact that it's a form of censorship in a way that's really, it's sleazy censorship. It's holier than thou censorship. And a lot of the narrative in the film, the holier than thou narrative, comes from everybody's favorite Jack Palance lookalike, Jack Valenti, who, if he's not the greasiest guy you've ever seen in regards to like running an organization, I don't know what to tell you, but he looks like a stereotypical politician in a job that does not require you to be a politician, in theory.
Well, ratings have directly affected me, and I kind of grew up with ratings changing. I mean, they don't necessarily talk about that in the film as far as like they say like these are the ratings. And yeah, those are the ratings as of 2005 when the film came out. But ratings have changed over the years. I talked about how PG was different from one time to another. Like Jaws was a PG movie. And now I think some people would say, no, it should be R-rated or at least PG-13, etc. PG-13 came about when I was 12. And that came about because of Gremlins and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which I saw when they were PG movies, and then they have retroactively been rated PG-13.
Yet a film like Airplane is still PG, and that movie has full-on titties in it.
It does. It does.
Which is like the one that I always think about when I think of films that are PG, is in Airplane, there's a scene where it's looking down the cabin of the airplane and everyone's going crazy because they're like, does anyone know if there's a pilot on board? And I shit you not, a woman runs by and jiggles her titties. And it's just, this is a PG film. What?
Right. And I was around when NC-17 came about, when that was 1990 when they first started introducing NC-17. And I just turned 18, so I always remember that Simpsons joke of like, hey, Bart, you want to go see an R-rated movie? And they all go off to see Bart and Fink. Well, my first NC-17 was The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. And that was like, ooh, big, wowee. And it is like the most unsexy movie that you could possibly get. It reminds me of Nelson coming out of Naked Lunch. I can think of two things wrong with that title. So it was these ratings directly affected me. Obviously, I haven't thought about them since I have turned 18, other than to look back at things and go, I wonder what that was rated, and then go, what? That was rated PG-13? What? That was rated R? How could that be?
The rating system, like you said, it has evolved so much, and yet it has, but it hasn't in a way, because, like I mentioned with Airplane, that film is still rated PG. Why they didn't go back and retroactively change it is beyond me. I mean, they've had multiple opportunities. It's not like the film hasn't been, re-released to DVD, and or however they that's what's one thing that they didn't talk about in the film is how they retroactively change the ratings, which I'm assuming is just as ambiguous as the rating system is.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the problem with the MPAA, is that it is so in the dark. It is so anonymous until obviously this film came out, that where's the transparency? There needs to be transparency. And I mean, you we'll obviously talk more about the lack of transparency, but the amount of hoops you have to go to as a film director in this country it's insane. It's just insane. It's so prohibitive that I can't believe we haven't figured out a better way to do it.
The hoops you have to go through when you are an independent director as opposed to a major studio director.
Yeah, well, that too.
I mean, that story that Matt Stone tells in this documentary about when they tried to get Orgasmo a rating, and that it was basically this entire movie is just verboten, and we will not tell you any specific thing that is going to get you a better rating. That will get you from an NC-17 to an R rating. We won't tell you. And then meanwhile, when Team America World Police goes under the knife, it's just like, oh, well, we'll change this, and this. And it's like, oh, what's the difference? Well, now we're working for a major studio.
And they're a known entity as well. That's the other
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
And that's again, like you said, that's the crazy thing about all of this, is not only is there a lack of transparency, but there's heavy favoritism. And, again, this film came out 13 years ago. This film came out 3 years before Iron Man. This film came out before Disney became the juggernaut of film that it is now. And I can only imagine what it's like now to work for Disney and submit your film. They're probably just like, all right, for sure, just pass it through, right? There's no way that it's not at this point, because of the favoritism that's expected from the MPAA in regards to Disney.
Yeah, what is it? They said like 90% of all media is owned by like 7 companies or something. I'm like, well, probably by now it's more up to like 97%.
Yeah, because now Disney owns all of Fox's assets, 20th Century Fox's assets. So it's way worse now.
Yeah, so this movie does a good job of shedding a light on the hypocrisy and talking to these independent directors. And really, they state things that are obvious to me as a film lover and as someone that used to work at a movie theater. I mean, people would come in and they would ask me, like, is this movie bad or good? And they would be thinking about things, can my kids watch this? And I would say, well, there's some brief nudity, but at the same time, people get their heads blown clean off with shotguns pointed right at their foreheads. Well, that's okay. As long as there's no breasts in here, then it's all right. And it's just this weird American thing of like, do not show me any sort of sexuality, but I will take as much gore and death as you possibly can hand out.
And don't show me any sexuality regarding a woman. Don't show a female orgasm. Don't show pubic hair. Breasts are apparently okay. Again, there doesn't seem to be any logical...
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Reason as to why they're okay versus anything else. But it's so weird because not only are they not transparent, not only are they allowing favoritism in regards to the studio that you're working for, but they're also sexist.
Well, yeah, if a woman can be objectified, that's okay. But if a woman is having sex or enjoying sex, then it is definitely not a good thing.
Yeah, which, again, that's offensive to me. That should be offensive to anyone who watches this film and is like, what? Because that's the crazy thing is the male nudity in films that you see, it's a flaccid dick. It's never erect. If you see an erect dick on screen, you're watching The Brown Bunny. That's the really, right? That's the only film I can think of that has a fully erect penis in it.
I haven't seen Nymphomania or any of that, so yeah, I can't swear to that. As soon as you say naked male dick on screen, I think of Kevin Bacon, and that's about it. So I can't even think of anything else.
Yeah, or like Jason Segel in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but again, it's flaccid, and it's so weird that you can show a flaccid penis, but don't show anything regarding the female anatomy. Like, what? In what universe is this okay?
Yeah.
Other than a universe that is controlled and micromanaged by the MPAA.
This film was not yet rated. Even though it's dealing with some very heavy subjects, it's light and it tells things in a very light way. The use of the animation, the use of irony, these kind of things is good. I really enjoy what they do as far as like, comparisons between this film is R-rated, this film is X-rated or NC-17, doing a side-by-side comparison. And like these two things are very much the same, except over on the right-hand side where it's NC-17, this is a homosexual liaison, whereas on the left-hand side of the screen, which is R-rated, that is a heterosexual liaison. So is there a double standard here? I think there is.
Well, and again, it's the way that they talk about the MPAA is that it's a mythical American parent. This mythical parent should have the best knowledge and a fair hand to deal in regards to whether or not they know what's best for their kids.
Well, it reminds me of the definition.
Yes, all kids, I guess.
Right. It reminds me of the definition of pornography, that it appeals to the prurient interests of the community. Well, who's the community, and who's to say one thing appeals to your prurient interests that doesn't appeal to mine, and vice versa? So, you could be showing a woman's feet on screen that might get some people really hard, and it might not get others hard at all. So whose interests are at stake here?
Well, and that's the thing that bothers me the most about this film is that the people that are making these decisions are making decisions in a way that any rational adult would not support.
Uh-huh.
No rational adult would think that a group of people who are supposedly standard generic American parents are able to make a concise and straightforward decision on what I should be able to watch, or what my kids should be able to watch, or my friends' kids should be able to watch. And that's, again, like we talked about at the beginning, it's the MPAA doesn't really affect us in a way because now we're over the age of 18, but it does affect us because we don't get to see certain versions of certain films. And we also don't get to see some films at all in the theaters because they're not rated, unrated, what have you. And those films never get released, period.
Well, that's the thing I never understood as far as when it comes to like an NC-17 film won't show at the local multiplex, because that is where I saw The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. But it's just like, okay, well, why is that the exception? And that was the exception because there was a lot of clout going on behind it, whereas something else, just it won't show at a major theater, and that's mostly because of pressure from outside groups and pressures from the theater owners association themselves. And then the other thing that John Waters brings up in this is the whole idea of the big box stores won't carry those. I mean, when I was working at Blockbuster, everything was all hunky-dory, and sometimes we would get unrated versions of things, sometimes we would get rated versions of things, and then I don't know what changed, but there was one day, literally just one day, where my boss came in and said, I got a memo from corporate, we have to go through and sell through all of the unrated titles in our entire library. So we just went through the entire stock. He did a look up on the computer and went through. So I ended up coming home that day, he just sold me all of the things that I wanted out of that batch. So I came home with all of these fucking Herschel Gordon Lewis films. I'm just like, what are you doing? This is 1968, but yet since this is unrated, then it should, Wizard of Gore shouldn't be on the shelves. Blood Feast shouldn't be on the shelves. What are you talking about? So I ended up buying all of these things, but it's just like, well, now some other schmo isn't able to come in and watch Color Me Blood Red because Blockbuster suddenly decided that this, 40-year-old movie shouldn't be on the shelves. The Toxic Avenger unrated cut shouldn't be on the shelves. It's just like, what are you doing? It was so arbitrary and just so weird.
And the arbitrary nature of all of this is what bothers me the most.
Yeah.
Really. It's that they don't seem to give a shit in a way. They give a shit about most things, but then they don't give a shit about other stuff, and that's what's weird. They single stuff out, and that's back to the favoritism. They single stuff out. I mean, you've got people like Kevin Smith and Darren Aronofsky, and then you've got other directors like Kimberly Pierce and, like you mentioned, John Waters, and they're talking about how their films have been butchered, but the problem is if you were given, like, a list of things to change, it would be one thing, but they're not really given a list. They're just told, like, well, just kind of cut this part down. What? Don't show this. Like, did you watch the film?
Right.
A lot of directors, dare I say most who aren't making films like Transformers, are trying to tell a story, and the story that they're trying to tell, if you take parts out, it won't make sense. And these people don't seem to give a shit about the content at all.
Yeah, Kirby Dick just touches on that whole militarization of our cinema and this whole, like, raising good soldiers because of what's getting out there and the military involvement in the movie industry. I mean, I'm doing a separate episode about a movie called The Writer with No Hands, and one of the subjects of that movie is all about how the military funds or censors films.
Oh, and it's completely insane.
Oh, yeah. And like Michael Bay, I mean, he basically says, okay, Army, what do you want me to do? I mean, a movie like Pearl Harbor, that's blatant, but then you get into something like Transformers where, your B-plot, when we're not dealing with Sam Witwicky and the adventures of that a-hole, we're dealing with these military guys and just how great the U.S. military is.
Yeah, and I mean, if you've ever heard about this before watching this film, the weird thing about having to pass stuff by the military, it's insane.
Yeah.
You have to, if you want to show the U.S. military in your film, you have to pass it along to them?
Well, definitely they will provide help.
Right.
They'll provide, equipment and guidance in these things.
So that it's as close to reality as possible.
Their version of reality. And I think that comes in the script stage, and then anything that comes in and you say, like, I want to use this helicopter or whatever, they're like, okay, we got to see your script. We'll give you notes on the script. We'll approve or disapprove your script. If you are approved, then we also get final say-so or final cut.
Can you imagine having to do that for any other industry that the movies talk about?
Well, didn't they have to do that for Google with The Intern? I'm just kidding. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised.
Did anyone see that movie?
I did. And surprisingly, very bad. Or sorry, unsurprisingly.
Right. I mean, I don't think that they were passing the script by Mark Zuckerberg when Aaron Sorkin wrote the script for The Social Network.
Something tells me no.
Yeah. And it's insane to me. I mean, there are films out there that are critical of the military that don't pass their script along.
Right, exactly.
Or maybe they do. I don't know.
Yeah, I want to say, like, surprisingly, Three Kings had military involvement with it, but they pretty much gutted some of the ideas that were in there. Like, the stuff that still remains is, a very pale imitation of what was originally there.
Right. Well, and again, that's where we come back to this whole favoritism aspect of this film, where certain films are given certain backdoor access to certain things that others aren't. I guarantee you an indie film director comes out and tries to make a film and use the military is going to be like, go fuck yourself. But if it's Disney, hey, everybody, how can we help?
Sometimes I'm of two minds when it comes to this, because some of my favorite films have been made under very harsh times as far as censorship goes. A lot of Czech New Wave films were made under communist supervision. You use certain things in order to say things about the oppressive regime while not actually saying things about the oppressive regime. You use, you're in Czechoslovakia, you start to tell stories about World War II and the occupation of Czechoslovakia by the Nazis. You think a little bit harder about that, and maybe it's not Nazis, maybe it's actually the Soviets and the SS and these kind of guys, or the Secret Service instead of the SS. And we're telling one story, but there's another story underneath it. So there are ways I can get around some of that stuff. So sometimes it's like, well, do you really have to show like both butt cheeks, those kind of things? But then at the same time, it's art. So if you want to show both butt cheeks, go right ahead, show both butt cheeks. You should be able to. I mean, for God's sakes, Eyes Wide Shut, painting over the orgy scene in Eyes Wide Shut, who gives a shit? By the time you reach that orgy scene, half the audience is asleep anyway.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I find just so bizarre is that, again, they single out certain things that are so arbitrary, like you mentioned, in a way that it makes no sense. Like, why do you care? Why do you care? And again, what this ultimately comes down to is, if you don't like something, just don't watch it. You have a choice. But foisting your choice and your opinion on other people without our ability to say anything about it. And that's the other thing, right? I mean, it's like we have a vote every year as to whether or not the MPAA needs to stick around. Which, I mean, maybe we should. I don't know. There's got to be some way to do this better. But the fact that they're in control of everything, and it's a narrow funnel. Everything has to go through this narrow funnel to get to us. It's so weird. It's just so weird that this organization exists, and it's not associated with the U.S. government in any tangible fashion, other than the fact that Jack Valenti was in the Nixon White House.
Yeah, I mean, they touch a little bit on like the Hayes Commission and these kind of things. And I mean, there's another documentary that's out there right now called Sickies Making Films that talks about the history of censorship of the U.S. film industry. And talking about local censorship boards. And ironically, since we talked about John Waters, I think Maryland had the longest standing local censorship board of all 50 states. And so things...
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week, and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Would have to go through like the Hayes office and eventually what was it, like the Breen office, or I might be mixing this up, and then also go through local boards, because we also forget, you and I being here in 2018, we forget about like the Catholic League of Decency and the way that they would put ratings on things. And there are still sites out there today, I'm trying to remember the name of one of them that I've seen before, where they will rate things for concerned parents, and they will do something. They do a couple things. They come down really harshly on stuff, especially if it is, immoral. But they also do something where they will list off kind of like those things that we see in the beginnings of trailers, where it's like, this movie is rated PG-13 for graphic sexuality, improper humor, all of these kind of things, smoking, all of those. And I'm actually okay with that list. Like, if somebody came up to me and I'm working at a box office and they go, is this, what's going on with this movie? And I can just hand them something that says, this movie's got swearing, crude humor, nudity, drug use and smoking. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I'm fine if my kid goes to see that then. You know, I don't know if that helps or not, but I would rather have those kind of things than like, this is PG-13, so tell your 12-year-old to go fuck off.
It would be better if it's just a rating board that doesn't affect the quality of the film.
Right.
It's just a rating board that just says, this is what's in the film.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to giving it a rating. Just, hey, it's got these things. Okay, end of story. And the website that you're talking about, by the way, is commonsensemedia.org.
Oh, wow.
And so this website, I don't know if you've ever, you've clearly seen it, but I don't know how far you've dug into it. They do TV, movies, apps, video games, on-demand and DVD. And not only do they have, like a common sense says, age appropriate to whatever age. They say parents say what age. Kids say what age. They have a guide to what's in the film, if there's positive message, positive role models, violence, sex, language. Consumerism apparently is a thing that they give a shit about. And then drinking, drugs, and smoking. On top of that, the thing that I actually appreciate about this website, and I'm not being facetious, is they have if you do go see the film with your kids, right? Say you go and see it with a 7 or 8 year old kid, right? There is a section called Talk to Your Kids About. And it's like topics you can talk to your kids about if you see the movie with them. And I think that that's kind of important, right? I mean, having an open dialogue, if you take your kids to go see an R-rated movie and you want to talk about something serious that was in the film, I mean, why not, right? But like telling people that they need to change their movie because you say so and you're the only option in town is not the right way to go about doing any of this. And that's the crazy part.
And I will be honest with you, working at a movie theater, unless something is just wildly inappropriate for a kid, like if a 12-year-old came in and said, yeah, I wanted 2 tickets to Ken Russell's Whore, I might say, no, fuck off. But for the most part, unless a kid comes up to me and they're acting suspicious, if they say, yeah, give me 2 tickets to whatever, to Boys in the Hood or whatever, it's just like, yeah, sure, here you go. I don't care if you're 16. I don't care if you're 17. We're not going to card you. We don't card people at movie theaters. I've only been turned away.
I have been carded.
I've only been turned away from 2 movies in my life. And one was when I was 10 years old buying tickets for Blade Runner. And they were like, oh, no, there's no way. And I was like, well, hold on. My mom's in the car. And they're like, yeah, sure she is. I'm like, yeah, no, she's just parking the car. And she came up and she's like, well, where's the tickets? I'm like, wouldn't sell them to me. And then she had to go up and say 2 tickets for Blade Runner. The other time was when I was literally 2 years old, was sleeping in the backseat of my parents' car, and they turned them away at the drive-in when they were trying to see Fritz the Cat.
And what a great film Fritz the Cat is. True American classic. And that's like the absolutely fucking apeshit thing about all this is who gives a shit if some kid who's 2 years old is in the car when they go see Fritz the Cat.
Right.
That film, like, the fact that I guarantee you 90% of the people that are listening to this podcast have no idea what the hell that film is. Imagine, like, garbage Felix the Cat. Imagine if Heathcliff was the biggest piece of shit around. Felix the Cat. It's like, who cares? And like you said, I mean, if I worked at a movie theater, why would I turn anyone away? It's not... I'm not the gatekeeper.
Right.
I don't even give a shit unless like I'm going to get fired and then maybe, but I don't know. Like it just doesn't matter. Like ultimately, I'm not going to tell you what you can and cannot watch. Just like at GameStop, they sell, they're not supposed to sell M-rated games to kids. And you can get fired for doing something like, why? Like honestly, other than getting fired, do you fucking care?
Right.
That's the thing. It's like censorship in all forms is bad, but this kind of censorship is way worse because these people are not only telling you what you can and cannot watch in quotations, they're also forcing the filmmakers to change their films so that they cannot be NC-17 because if they're NC-17, then the films don't even come out in the theaters to begin with, which means your film tanks financially.
Yeah, I'm looking at this definitely at a micro level, whereas the macro level and the thing, again, going back to Waters is, if the big box stores, if Walmart doesn't carry your movie, then you're fucking host. Then good luck with that because now all those profits, because I'm sure it's the same way, like just as people aren't really keeping movie theaters in business because of the ticket sales. They're keeping them in business through the popcorn sales. It's probably the same way when it comes to video. Is your movie probably makes however much at the box office, but probably makes 10 times that much when it comes to DVD sales and rentals.
Well, and the question is, and this is something again that this film came out a little early to answer this question is, if a film is rated NC-17, can it still come out on streaming services, or will they walk away from those films?
That's a good question. And this whole idea of like the unrated version of stuff, and just like, oh yeah, you can go see, what's that piece of shit Melissa McCarthy movie, Happy Time Murders or whatever. You can go see that now, or you can wait 3 months and see the unrated version, which is infinitely more funnier. It just feels like, let's make these things more rude than they were. And that makes me sound like an old fucking man, but it's like seeing the unrated versions versus the rated versions or the R-rated versions of some of these comedies, quote unquote. It's just like, yeah, okay, you're just being rude for rude's sake. I don't really think it's that much more funny.
What I don't understand is you're allowed to sell the unrated version of a film at Walmart, but you can't sell an NC-17 version of the film.
Right.
Which makes zero sense.
Yeah.
It literally makes no sense. The amount of sense that doesn't make is staggering.
Yeah, the whole idea of like, how many thrusts does it take to get an NC-17?
Yeah. Or how much pubic hair do they have to show? Oh, right. None, because they can't show any. What am I thinking?
Well, didn't they have to digitally add pubic hair to Dakota Johnson or something?
Oh, in 50 Shades of Grey?
Yeah.
I think something like that. I remember watching the documentary about Return of the Living Dead, and Linnea Quigley, they couldn't have her naked from the waist down.
Right.
Because they knew they were going to get NC-17, so they made her like a flesh tone like singlet from the waist down that she had to wear. Which, by the way, still looks like she's naked. So.
Right.
But it's like, this shit is just so strange.
Well, we can show Marky Mark's fake cock, but if it was his real cock, then it would get
right,
the NC-17.
Yeah, Boogie Nights, that fake plastic penis is really where it's at. And if you've seen the film, you know that there's the whole, like we were talking about, the whole subplot of two private eyes looking for the raiders and kind of tailing them across town and trying to figure out who they are. And they're trying to figure out who they are because they're trying to figure out if they match this mythical parent mold that these yahoos over at the MPAA keep talking about. Mm-hmm. And that, if we're talking about just this film and its presentation, I kind of check out. It's my least favorite part of the film.
Yeah, I appreciate that the private eyes who are following these folks are a lesbian couple. I think that's really nice. It's basically one of the members of the couple goes out on the road. The other one is more office, or at least we only see her in the office. And then it's the office woman's daughter who's with the other one. And it's just like, well, this is kind of nice. And it's like, basically, these people do not represent me as an American. And you get that a lot. Like, some of these directors are just like, I'm not represented here. The director of But I'm a Cheerleader is like, this isn't who I am. I'm a mom, and these people aren't representing me.
Well, and that's the thing, right? As soon as you say we represent the existing mythical anything. That's what I'm saying. Right. I represent 28-year-old white men of America. That's a fucking lie. Just like saying you represent 45-year-old white men in America. What 45-year-old bald white men? You are the end-all, be-all, the beginning and the end, the alpha and omega of what bald, white, 45-year-old men in this country should like. It's like, that's not real.
No.
And the fact that they're sitting there and saying that that's the case is just, it's strange that no one asks that question as to like, why? How have they been able to do this for so long? And I
don't drive a Jeep. I don't like Boondock Saints. I'm not a typical 45-year-old white male.
You don't like The Walking Dead either. Because let's be honest, if you like Boondock Saints, you probably like The Walking Dead. The thing that's kind of strange, right? Well, and the thing that makes sense, and this is something we talked about on Why We Fight. If you want to listen to that podcast, check that one out. That's a good one where Mike Wallace and I talk about the military-industrial complex. They talk about follow the money. And who does this MPAA system benefit? Well, first off, it benefits everyone who works through the MPAA, obviously, because these people who probably couldn't flip burgers at McDonald's because they're too stupid are doing their jobs for the MPAA. So they have, and I'm talking about the Raiders, because the Raiders seem just like, they seem like wallpaper. Like, absolutely, they seem as, like, useless as wallpaper. They're just complete ding-dongs. You have those folks who benefit because they have a job, but the people that are benefiting are the ones who are able to tell other people what they can and can't do. And you can't corrupt the youth of America. I was watching the documentary on Shudder about the video nasties in the 80s in Britain. And this whole situation with the MPAA smacks of that. I mean, the thing in Britain was way worse. I mean, no one in this country was getting arrested for watching Midnight Cowboy or like having it on the shelves at Blockbuster, but it's the same thing. It's these holier than thou, moral high ground standing assholes telling everyone else that their opinion is right, your opinion is wrong, you don't know what you're talking about, we do, therefore my opinion is right, yours is wrong, and if you don't like it, too bad. That's just the way the system is.
So the movie gets a little bogged down towards the end when he's talking about the appeals process, because that could be the most fascinating part of the movie, but it's a little too front-loaded. So I lose, or at least I do, though I represent all white 45-year-old bald men.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror. We'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
All of us white 45-year-old bald men will get confused at the end of this movie when he's going through the appeals process, because that's a whole other ratings board that he also outs. And that one is even more fascinating to me because it is almost 100% corporate interest, talking about the Theater Owners Association, to all of these different theaters that are represented there, and then also having the Episcopalian and Catholic priests there, and then having those cross-cut interviews from people that used to be on the board, and one saying, yes, those religious people have a vote, and the other one saying, no, they don't have a vote. And I tend to believe the guy who says, yes, they do have a vote.
Well, I mean, it would make perfect sense that they have a vote. I mean, I haven't seen anything to show me to the contrary. And again, it should be really disconcerting to anyone who isn't religious, is mildly religious.
Is of a different religion, is maybe Jewish or Muslim or Hindu or Buddhist or any of these other religions where it's just two being represented, and they make a point that it's not a rotating thing. It's not like they get like, let's get the Jewish guy and the Muslim guy in here next week. No, it's always these two. And the one guy, I mean, he's basically saying these two guys just sit there and they don't say anything and they don't have a vote. I'm just like, well, then why are they there? Of course they have a vote. Of course they have a say in this.
Man.
What, they just sit there and then you act better because they're sitting there?
I know, it's so fucking strange. They're lying to your face.
Oh yeah.
And it's just so, it's absolutely 100% fucking bad shit.
Yeah.
And I don't like it, but I can't do anything about it any more than you can. That's the crazy part.
Right.
And that's the part that bums me out, is that everyone has kind of made like a tacit agreement that, oh, this is fine, we can't do anything about it. But it's like, this doesn't really even affect anyone on a daily basis, really. Like, not everyone is like you and I that watch movies all the time.
But we still get all this horse shit when it's like, ooh, that's the highest grossing R-rated movie, or oh, that movie was rated PG-13 so they can get more people in the theater, or oh, that was rated PG so they can appeal to this audience and that audience and get even more money. And it's like, does that, I mean, I'm very curious because I hear conflicting stories all the time as far as what's going to make more money. But again, to your point, follow the money. It's this whole thing of like, well, if we get a PG-13, then we're going to appeal to this audience, and we'll make this much more money. And then if we get an R, then that drops off this audience, but then we pick up this audience and blah, 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 blah. So it's like, it's all a money game. And it's just basically what you slap on there is like probably guarantees you a little bit extra bump or or lessening of your box office draw. I mean, I was surprised when I was looking at like The Incredibles 2 and I saw that it was PG and I was like, oh, I'm surprised it's not a G. Okay. I guess that makes it seem like it's not a kid's movie, so teenagers will go to see it. I mean, who cares, right?
That's the thing. Somebody cares. And the problem is it's not us. I care about other things in the MPAA.
Yeah. I don't even look at ratings anymore.
I know that it negatively affects the filmmakers that I love.
Exactly.
And them having to change their films or make it so that I can't watch a certain version of the film. Like, apparently, I don't know if you know this, but there's an R-rated version of Galaxy Quest.
Really?
Yeah, apparently there is. Apparently one of the scenes in the film, you can actually see Sigourney Weaver say, fuck that, near the end where they're like, you need to make it through these crushers. And she goes, oh, screw that. But in the film, it's dubbed.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah, and there's an R-rated version of the film that exists. But again, we'll never get to see it because of this MPAA nonsense. Gotta appeal to the most common audience, gotta appeal to the mass audience. To me, it's frustrating. It's just really frustrating.
Well, and that's a time when I do think that an unrated version of a film is, something that should be out there, as opposed to like, let's just tell 20 jokes and assume that 2 of them will get cut and then we'll add the other 2 back in when we do the unrated version. And it's like, well, maybe you should leave those out, maybe just for sake of brevity, just for your timing purposes. I mean, I'm sorry to pick on Melissa McCarthy, but there are too many of the movies that I see of hers where it feels like people just ad-lib jokes and then they pick which ones are the best ones. But then sometimes it's like when you get to the unrated version, they just leave all of them in. And it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, this joke has been dead for 5 minutes, people.
Are you talking about Paul Feig films?
I am definitely talking about Paul Feig films and Judd Apatow films.
That's a different situation with the ad-libbing thing. This is an ad-lib. Just ad-lib the scene.
Right.
You're funny. You say funny things. So just say funny stuff. I remember watching the blooper reel for Anchorman, and it's like some of it's funny, but some of it's just like, oh, fuck off. Like, yeah. This doesn't need to go on this long. You don't need to do like 30 takes of Will Ferrell saying one goofy thing after another. Like, it's just it's too, like you said, it's too much.
That's why a movie like Airplane that you brought up earlier, that's why that movie has such staying powers, because it was written, and you can tell that it was written by people that actually know how to write jokes.
So, Mike, what would you give the film out of 5?
I'd give it 3.5.
Yeah, I would give it a 3.5 as well. Well, I'd give it a 4. I mean, again, I'm not a huge fan of the private eye stuff. I get why it's there. I feel like it could have been done in a different way, but I understand why it's there because they're trying to expose the ambiguity of these reviewers, but I feel like it could have been done in a different way, and less of the film could have been devoted to it, and more of the film could have been devoted to more conversation and discussion about certain aspects of the MPAA. And obviously, again, MPAA has changed so much in the last 13 years that, this is somewhat of a time capsule looking back on top of everything else. Well, let's take another break and we'll play a preview for the next Kulturecast.
この面を取ってくれ。
That's right. On the next Kulturecast, we're talking about Oni Baba, which is kicking off our Samurai September. I'm looking forward to it. Samurai films are not exactly my forte, so got a lot of good picks. No Quentin Tarantino movies. Sorry, we're not watching Kill Bill, so if you were expecting that, sorry. Until then, what have you been up to, Mr. White?
Well, I am just kicking off Czechtember, which you will be a part of, Mr. Stachiw. So I'm looking forward to having you on that. Yeah, we're covering a bunch of Czech films. Dita Saxova is the one that you and I are talking about, and The Fifth Horseman is Fear, and Who Could Kill Jesse, and Marketa Larazova. So good stuff. A lot of things that no one that is listening to this podcast have seen. A lot of people that listen to my own podcast will not have seen them either. That is why Czechtember is the least rated month of my entire year, but I love these movies, so I'm still going to cover them anyway. And also got a new podcast venture going on with you and Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes fame, and we are talking about Twilight Zone 85.
Mike Wallace is fucking dead. Isn't he?
Isn't that our partner's name, Mike Wallace?
It is, but I was just going to let you go with the fact that you said 60 Minutes, Mike Wallace.
Yeah, no, I thought that's the guy that we talk to every couple weeks. You mean that guy that is... Oh, man.
Mike Wallace is dead.
I thought for sure that the guy you got to be on... I was going to ask him about Morley Safer next week. Oh, shit. Yes. We are talking about Twilight Zone 85 on a new podcast called Dreams for Sale, and we are still doing the Kolchak tapes. We're about midway through our 4 years of Kolchak, so come on over to kolchaktapes.com and listen to the show.
And you can find me on Twitter at Kulturestash. I am also on a podcast called Chronicles from the Crypt, where the aforementioned Mike Wallace and I talk about Tales from the Crypt, 2 episodes every other week. So check that out if you're a fan of Tales from the Crypt. If you're not, you should check it out anyways, because Tales from the Crypt is pretty awesome. Like Mike mentioned, Dreams for Sale is cool. Also check out Kolchak Tapes. If you want to follow Mike White on Twitter, he is at ProBoothcast. You can follow the Kulturecast on Twitter at Kulturecast. Head on over to Kulturecast.com. Check out the feed for this podcast. We're also on all podcatcher apps, both iOS and Android. Give us a favorable review anywhere you can. It helps other people find the podcast. We also have links to Patreon, where you can kick a couple dollars our way so we can make some money to keep the lights on. Big thanks as always to Eric and Wovoka and my good buddy Justin for the intro-outro music, and to you, Mike White, for stepping in and talking about the MPAA.
You know, I love it. Thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime, man, and we'll catch you on the next Kulturecast.
Posted with the crew, yeah. You know how we do, I'm just 2-step, drink in my right hand, phone in my other hand, getting to the money, oh man, 2-step, posted with the crew, yeah. You know how we do.
Hey, 2-step, you know what I'm saying? 1, 2, 1, 2, Benjamin, aka the Black T, you know what I'm saying? Catch me with my crew every day. 2-step. Oh, my phone in my other hand, like, hello? Oh, get into the money, man. Yeah.
filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.